Very good evening. You're watching us live on YouTube. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali, and this is Free Press Journal coming to you live. We want to talk about the flight that hit turbulence. This was a Delhi to Srinagar flight, IndiGo 6E2142 that I'm talking about. What we have to understand here is that while the news that we are encountering is more about how Pakistan denied entry into their airspace despite being requested, there is a larger story here about how, as our planet warms, our skies are becoming more and more dangerous and less forgiving. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because there is a larger issue involved here. What happened actually goes to show that our airspaces need particular kind of attention because there are dangers involved with the number of incidents of turbulence increasing by the day. I'm going to share some hard-hitting facts and figures as well. Let me first introduce to you Vipul Saxena, aviation expert, joining us live. Very good evening, Mr. Saxena. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Good evening.
I will come to the issue of the park authorities or air traffic control not giving permission to enter to divert the flight towards Lahore. But before that, let's look at this figure. As per a 2023 study published in Geophysical Research Letters, severe clear air turbulence over the North Atlantic increased 55%. So there is a very substantial increase, and I'll keep putting out more figures and more data as well. What is the concern here, Mr. Saxena? That why are we seeing, these sort of turbulence, air turbulence, with such alarming regularity?
See, this is something which is, I would say, not under control of human being. That is change of climate which is happening across the world over last almost 15, 20 years because of global warming and various issues which have been raised, frequently on almost every platform. Though countries are resorting to kind of sustainability, but then I think by the time we reach the level of sustainability which is expected to neutralize these effects, I think it takes some time. Till then, we'll have to bear with this, unexpected weather and weather which are usually not been historically. Like you see, snowfall in Dubai, we never heard about it. Even rains in Rajasthan, we never heard about it. So those kind of things will continue happening till we reach the level of sustainability of environment. So I think that is the main reason.
Right. So there is a very huge climate change concern here, what I can see. I'm just playing out this video and just bear with me. Let our viewers also watch this. This is the situation that passengers had to go through. This was the predicament at that moment. And just think about it, how scary this is. And this is the sort of damage that was caused to the aircraft. Mr. Saxena, I'm sure you can see the pictures I'm playing out. One can't imagine, I mean, to be in this situation, to have sort of damage to the aircraft, to come out alive, it must feel like a second life altogether for all those people sitting there. I'll also play out a soundbite, eyewitness account, if you may, somebody who was on board, and what they actually went through, when the turbulence hit the aircraft. The Lahore air traffic, as I was pointing out earlier, apparently did not permit the deviation request. Indian Air Force Control had earlier made the request, but they were denied entry. The DGCA has made a number of statements that the crew had requested non-deviation towards left towards international border due to the weather en route. However, it was not approved. There is a bit of a lack of clarity on whether the Indian Air Force did not approve the deviation or whether Indian Air Force did not approve because there was no green signal coming from the park authorities. Be that as it may, one could not have expected anything else, I guess, at a time like this from a hostile nation. 227 people were on board, including TMC MPs Derek O'Brien and Sagarika Ghosh. We tried to, in fact, have Ms. Ghosh also on the program earlier to speak about it. Nevertheless, let's listen in to what this passenger had to say.
तो फ्लाइट स्मूथ ही जा रही थी तो 2142 जो कि दिल्ली से श्रीनगर आने वाली थी। तो फ्लाइट स्मूथ ही जा रही थी। तो मुझे लगता है 20 या 30 मिनट होंगे श्रीनगर आने को। तो कॉकपिट से अनाउंसमेंट आया कि रफ पाथ है, तो अपने फास्टन योर सीट बेल्ट। तो हम सब लोगों ने सीट बेल्ट फास्टन किए। तो इसी विद इन 2 मिनट्स और 3 मिनट्स में इतना टर्बुलेंस हुआ कि हमें लगा कि हमारी आखिरी फ्लाइट थी। सब लोग जो थे सभी डर रहे थे, सबको भी लगा था कि अब ये क्रैश ही हो जाएगा। इतना ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक एक्सपीरियंस हुआ। मैं बोलूँगा कि मैं से जैसे फ्रीक्वेंट फ्लायर हूँ, मैं जाता रहता हूँ, बट ऐसा मैंने आज तक कभी नहीं देखा कि ऐसी टर्बुलेंस अपनी लाइफ में, जैसे मैंने इतनी फ्लाइट्स ली है। बट वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल टू पायलट जिसने कि सेव कराया लैंडली हमें श्रीनगर में। और जब भी हमने देखी कि जब हम प्लेन से बाहर आए, डिबोर्ड हुए, तो हमने जब देखा प्लेन की हालात क्या थी, तो और ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक हुए कि हमें मुझे आई विश कि ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस कोई और ना देखे।
Well, the DGCA has clearly now launched a formal investigation into this entire incident, and some statements have already come on this. The plane declared aircraft on ground, and it's obviously now grounded for repairs. The particular aircraft will not be ready to fly anytime soon. Pakistan airspace refusal during this emergency situation raises diplomatic concerns. It's a humanitarian issue for a country to actually be insensitive enough to human lives, to 227 lives, says a lot. But coming back to the issue, Mr. Saxena, you heard the passenger there. How much of a control does a pilot have? Because when I read the story, I felt it must have taken a lot of guts and gumption on the part of the pilot and the crew to control, of course, the emotions of the passengers, but the pilot particularly to decide to just go through it and land safely. What would have taken a pilot to do this?
I'm sure this must have been very, very challenging situation for a pilot because
Hmm.
normally pilots get forewarning through weather radar about this kind of weather much before they really enter into this weather. But then
Hmm.
in such kind of weather, I'm sure no pilot would like to enter into this kind of weather unless there is some forcing situation. Normally they divert to alternate airfield or some other airfield where they can do a safe landing. But
Yeah.
as news reports are coming in, that pilot did try to contact Pakistan airspace to probably hold on to their airspace for some time and then come back and land. But I think
Hmm.
because of ongoing conflict, they did not allow. So I think that must have been the compulsion on the pilot to take this challenge and try to make the SFL landing. I would really
Yeah.
congratulate this pilot that who made a very very safe landing without risking any passenger's life. Though aircraft did
Hmm.
got damaged, but then ultimately he saved so many lives.
Yeah, I have, in fact, with me right now one of the passengers who was on board at that time, Uber Shah. If you can unmute yourself, please. Uber Shah, can you hear me? If you can
Yes.
unmute yourself, yeah. We are
Yeah,
running
yeah.
those pictures, and apparently you were one of those individuals sitting right there inside this aircraft when this turbulence happened. Can you share your experience with us?
Yes, of course, it was a terrible experience because I have been flying frequently.
Mhm.
When the flight started from Delhi, it was a usual flight. It started around 5 p.m. in the evening, so it was a usual flight. I think first 30 minutes were quite normal. It was going everything was going fine, but suddenly we had an announcement that Uh, we are expecting some rough weather ahead, so everyone was asked to take their seats and of course fasten their seat belts because that's I think normal protocol followed by the
Yeah.
airlines. And soon after, we were caught up in middle of the turbulence, and I think there was a lot of lightning, and the flight was actually taken to the toss. It was going here and there, and everyone was frightened, and there were a lot of screams inside, and we thought that this is it. I think this was the moment that everybody was praying to the god, and we thought that these are the final moments that before any
Yeah.
eventuality. So it
Hmm.
was it was of course a very scary moment, and of course a near to the death experience for all the passengers. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, we are still coping up with the trauma that
Hmm.
we have faced. Yeah. So yeah, soon after this embarkment, uh, we could see clearly that there was visible damages on the aircraft. So it was quite horrible to see that also,
Hmm.
because inside we didn't know the flight has been hit this hard, and of course
Yeah.
when the turbulence was happening, so it was of course scary. But when we saw the flight, it was, of course, it has there were the nose of the plane was partially damaged, so it was quite scary for all of us. Yes, it was quite traumatic for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Mr. Saxena, any quick response to that? When you see a passenger's account of this nature, first thing, of course, that comes to our mind is that what can be done to prevent this the next time? We are saying that this, as a result of climate change, the instances of turbulence has increased, but on the part of aviation authorities, on the part of aircrafts and airlines, what can be done? Do we need better models or remodeling of the aircrafts that exist currently? What precautions can be taken that passengers don't go through this harrowing time? You have to unmute. I think your mic is muted. Okay, I have unmuted. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So firstly, let me cover up 2 3 points for the benefit of all the passengers who are watching this program and also for Mr. Uber. Firstly, that no pilots will ever enter in this kind of weather as a SOP for his own safety. So this was a situation which was beyond his control, and I'm sure he must not been having enough fuel to go back to Delhi or some other airfield. That is why he had to commit to this landing. Second point, I'm sure DGCA must be contacting their counterparts in Pakistan and also must have taken a matter with the ICAO, because this is an ICAO mandate. All the countries who are contracting state, uh, they are supposed to support each other in emergency situation, even if they are enemy country. Very very clear. So even if Pakistan and India has a conflict and our aircraft had some emergency, refusal by Pakistan is not done. It is violation of the norms of ICAO, and I'm sure some action will be taken against Pakistan. Third point: see the nose of the aircraft. It is the very soft part. It is not metallic structure. It is called radar dome, where all the avionics of radar and various other electronic items are housed. And this part is not made of hard metal. It is made of very soft composite material, because there are a lot of radio waves and all have to go through land, receive radio waves and all. Based on that, all the instruments, and the radar, weather radar and all, they work in the aircraft. So that is why this part got so severely damaged. Okay. Last point is that why pilots don't enter into this kind of weather, because during this kind of weather, even if bird, when it hits the engine, it damages the engine, which is made of titanium blades. Okay, so the impact is very heavy, and at that
Yeah.
height, the size of hail also must have been quite a big. Normally, at
Yeah.
ground level, size of hail is about just the size of lemon or something, but at that height, must have been size of a small, you can say double of tennis ball. That size of height,
Yeah.
and coming at a high impact. That is why this nose got damaged. If it had hit somewhere else, I'm sure there must have been some small dent, but not this kind of damage. So let's not get
Yeah.
scared of because but then we can't control that where this hail should hit our aircraft. It does
Hmm. Hmm.
cause damage and danger to the aircraft, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Important takeaways from what you just said, and I'll come to Uber for last comments and the closing comments. But before that, let me just wind up with the points that you made, and these are important issues that people must remember. Those who are watching us, that we do need cross-border coordination in such emergency situations, and there must be internationally set protocols. They probably already are, but with the hostilities between the two neighboring countries on the rise, uh, this is the price to pay. But however, there has to be some sort of an authority presiding over multiple countries, especially in the case of adjoining countries, who takes the final call, because you cannot have the lives of 227 passengers risked in this manner because somebody out there in the Pakistan air traffic control has on a whim decided not to let this aircraft enter. So that, of course, is infuriating. I would say it's absolutely unacceptable. But while I talk about the cross border coordination among authorities, I must also say that we need better forecasting. And as Mr. Saxena pointed out, that no pilot will enter a situation like this if he has advance notice, if he's aware, and if the weather forecasting and if the airlines have access to that information. Yes, Mr. Saxena.
See, I would like to explain here that when the aircraft takes off, pilot is given detailed MET briefing for the surface weather, for the upper air weather, and also en route weather. And
Hmm.
apart from that, every aircraft is fitted with a service called ATIS, Automatic Terminal Information System services. So that continuously keep giving update about the weather of en route. Apart from that, all aircraft have got a weather radar, which gives them all kind of warning. They give a pictorial images of where the clouds are, where the heavy clouds are, where the rain is going on. Everything comes on a weather radar at least about 50 to 60 miles before. But in that case, pilot takes correct reaction. Here the situation was pilot was helpless because Pakistan did not allow their airspace to be used. So that is why probably the pilot had to take this call. Otherwise, pilot would not have taken this call.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, that I do understand. I do understand that. But now we have to factor in that you have to enter, airspace of another country if you are to navigate around this weather situation. So it's better to factor that in as well under the current circumstances. I get your point. Now I will take a quick last word from Uber before I wind up. Uber Shah, what was that one emotion that you will remember? Because I know that these are experiences one would probably never forget in one's lifetime. You're pretty young and to have gone through this, but were there any injuries? Is there anything that remains with you as a stark memory of that incident? And personally, physically, were you in any way injured, or did anyone else get injured in this?
No, I don't think there were any injuries on the flight, but yeah, there were, like, of course, people were traumatic, and I think there were some kids. Of course, it was very normal because I think during this flight also, which I got to know as well, we have. I think we have lost the altitude, drastically. I think it was more than 4,000 feet in a minute. So that is quite. I think no passenger is actually ready for that to face such kind of situation. So in that situations, of course it is. Of course it takes. It's very difficult to cope up with such kind of turbulences and such kind of situations for a passenger like me. And of course for elders it was of course, I think they got some immediate medical attention, but there were no injuries. But yeah, I could see there were some kids, they were basically vomiting, and I think, but
Personally, for you, what was the overriding emotion? What was that one
so I
emotion
think
that?
it was,
What
of
was the
course,
inner dialogue?
no, it was purely, I think it was a near to death experience for all of us. So it was
Hmm.
like that. I think this is it. We're gonna hit any time because we're caught up in middle of the clouds, and the flight
Yeah,
was like going here and there. So we thought that this was the moment that I think this is probably the last flight that we.
yeah,
I think that was really quite emotional for all of us. So people were praying that, but thankfully, thanks to God and thanks to the pilot, I think he has shown his skills. And I don't know in the cockpit how was the situation, but I think he has kept his nerves, and he was quite calm. And I think because after that I could see the details that he has to maneuver the flight with the manual mode, not the autopilot mode. So I think he has showed some skills. But of course, at the first place, even to go through that rough patch, if when we know, because as of now we have the real time weather updates, and I think going into that situation, I think it's quite. I know how I would say that it was the safety of passengers compromised in this situation. So I think that would be the larger question that DGCA would basically look
yeah,
into, and I hope we'll have answers for that, because I think this trauma will never come out of this trauma. I think it will take a long time for us to, I mean, to go back to the flights. I think flight, air travel is actually considered to be the safest travel so far. But I think
Mhm.
situation like these, I think it would be really hard to go back. And of course, travel, it is necessary, maybe for us now, for the mobility, for reaching to the places. So it would be hard to go back, take the flights. It won't happen very
For a
soon.
long
Yeah.
time to come. Totally
Yes.
understandable. I mean, to get back to ever taking a flight, I mean, to taking a flight after this, one can imagine will be a long stretch. What I want to conclude with is that, yes, indeed, I mean, to have you share with us your experiences, that it was a near death experience, it feels like coming out of the jaws of death. We could see that literally. Those pictures speak volumes, and I'll conclude with putting up those pictures again for our viewers. Mr. Vipul Saxena and Uber Shah, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your thoughts and your expertise with us. Thank you very
Thank you.
My,
much.
my pleasure.
जी, मेरा नाम शेख समीउल है। मैं भी आज इस इंडिगो फ़्लाइट से था 6E2142 जो कि दिल्ली से श्रीनगर आने वाली थी। तो फ़्लाइट स्मूथ ही जा रही थी। तो मुझे लगता है 20 या 30 मिनट होंगे श्रीनगर आने को, तो कॉकपिट से अनाउंसमेंट आया कि रफ़ पाथ है, तो अपने फास्टन योर सीट बेल्ट्स। तो हम सब लोगों ने सीट बेल्ट्स फास्टन किए। तो इसी विदिन 2 मिनट्स और 3 मिनट्स में इतना टर्बुलेंस हुआ कि हमें लगा कि हमारी आखिरी फ्लाइट थी। सब लोग जो थे सभी डर रहे थे, सबको भी लगा था कि अब ये क्रैश ही हो जाएगा। इतना ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक एक्सपीरियंस हुआ। मैं बोलूँगा कि मैं जैसे फ्रीक्वेंट फ्लायर हूँ, मैं जाता रहता हूँ, बट ऐसा मैंने आज तक कभी नहीं देखा कि ऐसी टर्बुलेंस अपनी लाइफ में, जैसे मैंने इतनी फ्लाइट्स ली है। बट वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल टू पायलट जिसने कि सेव कराया लैंडली हमें श्रीनगर में। और जब भी हमने देखी कि जब हम प्लेन से बाहर आए, डिबोर्ड हुए, तो हमने जब देखा प्लेन की हालात क्या थी, तो और ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक हुए कि मुझे आई विश कि ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस कोई और ना देखे। जी, मेरा नाम शेख सुमील है। मैं भी आज इस इंडिगो फ्लाइट से था 6E2142 जो कि दिल्ली से श्रीनगर आने वाली थी। तो फ्लाइट स्मूथ ही जा रही थी। तो मुझे लगता है 20 या 30 मिनट होंगे श्रीनगर आने को। तो कॉकपिट से अनाउंसमेंट आया कि रफ पाथ है, तो अपने फास्टन योर सीट बेल्ट्स। तो हम सब लोगों ने सीट बेल्ट्स फास्टन किए। तो इसी विदिन 2 मिनट्स और 3 मिनट्स में इतना टर्बुलेंस हुआ कि हमें लगा कि हमारी आखिरी फ्लाइट थी। सब लोग जो थे सभी डर रहे थे, सबको भी लगा था कि अब ये क्रैश ही हो जाएगा। इतना ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक एक्सपीरियंस हुआ। मैं बोलूँगा कि मैं जैसे फ्रीक्वेंट फ्लायर हूँ, मैं जाता रहता हूँ, बट ऐसा मैंने आज तक कभी नहीं देखा कि ऐसी टर्बुलेंस अपनी लाइफ में, जैसे मैंने इतनी फ्लाइट्स ली है। बट वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल टू पायलट जिसने कि सेव कराया लैंडली हमें श्रीनगर में। और जब भी हमने देखी कि जब हम प्लेन से बाहर आए, डिबोर्ड हुए, तो हमने जब देखा प्लेन की हालात क्या थी, तो और ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक हुए कि मुझे आई विश कि ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस कोई और ना देखे। जी, मेरा नाम शेख सुमील है। मैं भी आज इस इंडिगो फ्लाइट से था 6E2142 जो कि दिल्ली से श्रीनगर आने वाली थी। तो फ्लाइट स्मूथ ही जा रही थी। तो मुझे लगता है 20 या 30 मिनट होंगे श्रीनगर आने को। तो कॉकपिट से अनाउंसमेंट आया कि रफ पाथ है, तो अपने फास्टन योर सीट बेल्ट्स। तो हम सब लोगों ने सीट बेल्ट्स फास्टन किए। तो इसी विदिन 2 मिनट्स और 3 मिनट्स में इतना टर्बुलेंस हुआ कि हमें लगा कि हमारी आखिरी फ्लाइट थी। सब लोग जो थे सभी डर रहे थे, सबको भी लगा था कि अब ये क्रैश ही हो जाएगा। इतना ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक एक्सपीरियंस हुआ। मैं बोलूँगा कि मैं जैसे फ्रीक्वेंट फ्लायर हूँ, मैं जाता रहता हूँ, बट ऐसा मैंने आज तक कभी नहीं देखा कि ऐसी टर्बुलेंस अपनी लाइफ में, जैसे मैंने इतनी फ्लाइट्स ली है। बट वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल टू पायलट जिसने कि सेव कराया लैंडली हमें श्रीनगर में। और जब भी हमने देखी कि जब हम प्लेन से बाहर आए, डिबोर्ड हुए, तो हमने जब देखा प्लेन की हालात क्या थी, तो और ज़्यादा ट्रॉमेटिक हुए कि मुझे आई विश कि ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस कोई और ना देखे।